Welcome to Katy Fly Talks, a show where you can get inspired. Hey guys, it's Katy Fly Talks again. Today our guest is Henry Crew, who is the World Guinness Record holder of being the youngest man, I think that's the
youngest male specifically.
Yeah, so the youngest male to circumnavigate the world on a motorcycle, solo and unassisted. Wow, I mean, just saying that, it feels, that too, but it's just incredible. I mean, first of all, congratulations, because it's such a massive achievement, but also feels like the most, ridiculous thing to do, but I'm sure that it was something that you kind of enjoyed after a while. So just tell us, maybe before we go into talking about the trip itself, what got you into bike? Was it something that your family was doing or your friends? How did it all start?
Well, I just always had a sort of attraction to motorcycles. No one in my family rides bikes. So I didn't have any introduction to it growing up. Just always knew I wanted to ride motorcycles. Right. And I don't know, when I was 16 I wanted a scooter, and then when I was 17 I wanted a 125, and there was a lot of resistance from my family, and obviously being young you don't have the money to do it anyway.
Were you the black sheep basically?
I don't know, I guess maybe. I'd always ridden bicycles. I spent all my childhood on two wheels, but without engines. And then when I was 19 I had my own money. I sold my first car and was like, I'm gonna learn to ride a bike, and I've only ridden motorcycles since.
That is amazing. So before you went on the trip, what sort of thought process happened? How did you decide to do this trip in the first place?
I wanted to do much smaller trips. I wanted to do 2 weeks, maybe a month, maybe a couple of months in Europe, and just spend some time riding a motorcycle, which I loved, and traveling, which I really wanted to do. And a lot of my work was freelance, and I worked in the music industry. There was difficulty around taking time off because you wouldn't get paid for it, so it's almost twice as expensive. But then also you can't really, it's an industry which kind of cultivates this attitude that if you step away from it you're not welcome back. I really came to the conclusion that the only way that I was going to be able to do any sort of trip was to just pack everything in and do that trip. And I went into work one day and fired up the computer, and an article came up about Kane, whose record I broke, coming back from his trip and having his record officiated and everything. And I'd seen bits of his trip and read about his trip, but had never seen how old he was. And when I realised his age and that I could break that record, I just decided to do it, and that was everything.
What would you say was the sort of the highlights of it, as in the two part of it, the most sort of exciting things that happened, but also the things that you struggled with the most?
I think for me, the challenge, both logistical, physical, the challenge was the real fun part. That's what attracted me to it, and that's what made every day exceptional, and that's what makes it different from just a week on your motorcycle in Europe, where you have these extra challenges. So that was great. Meeting people, the people that I met along the way was another highlight, and probably the Himalayas and Australia in terms of places I rode. Slovenia was awesome as well. There are so many great places.
Was it 35 countries that you've been to? It's a different story if you just jump on the bike, go for an hour or two, but if you have to ride the whole day, then how do you even keep yourself warm all this time? Yeah,
it's difficult. The warm thing wasn't such a big problem because I had some electric heated clothing.
Oh, that's nice.
But there is a point where that's just pointless. And when I got to America, it was winter, but I was in the south of America, so I'm like, I just thought it would be summer. But it was the coldest winter that they've had in years. So I was in the middle of the desert in Texas, and it was -7.
Oh my goodness.
Temperature, I found, is more tricky in the tropics because you want to be cool, but it's going to rain. You're either soaking wet from the rain or you're soaking wet from sweat because you've got waterproofs on. So it's a really difficult balance. The cold in in America was a problem. Myanmar completely flooded, so I was riding through like flooded roads all day, and when your gear's wet and you've got to ride the next day, there's not always the opportunity to dry stuff out properly.
But what kind of kept you going all this time? Because I'm sure that there must have been a point where you thought, am I really doing this? You know, do I really want to finish it? Or were you actually on the other side where you just wanted to achieve that so badly that you wouldn't sort of look at the bike side of things?
When I left, I had a goal of reaching Australia, and it was, well, my goal was obviously to get all the way around, but I had a mental goal of just breaking it down to get to Australia, because it's too big of a concept, or it doesn't make sense to think my goal is to get back where I started, because if that was your goal, you'd just turn around, right? Mm-hmm. So I thought I'd get to Australia, and between the UK and Australia, I just had so much passion and energy for the trip that nothing really fazed me, and I was able just to push on and push my body every day. Mm-hmm. I lost about a third of my body weight, and it was crazy struggles ever since I got to Kazakhstan. Really, the clutch broke on the motorcycle, 3,500 mile detour. I had to go through a load of countries that I hadn't planned. Visas got rejected. And then I had to go through Iran and Pakistan. It was like 52 degrees Celsius, and I was late for this tour guide which I had to have to get through Iran. And loads of bike issues, financial issues, losing loads of weight. But I just had this energy just to carry on. And I got to Australia and relaxed, and my body just went, nope, like we're done for a little bit. Okay. So I took some time off the bike in Australia and just spent a few weeks not riding. And I left my bike in Brisbane, flew back to Melbourne, just hung out and sent my bike on to Chile, and then flew on to Chile a few weeks later. And when I got to Chile, that was when it was really difficult, because I got so used to being so relaxed and comfortable in Australia, and I kind of got out of that mentality of pushing myself.
Budget was 20 grand, wasn't it, for the whole trip? So was that something that you felt sort of comfortable with, or would you struggle in some places, be like, oh, you know, can I go a little extra here, or do I need to sort of keep it to myself for a bit longer?
Yeah, well, the money is the hardest part of the whole trip. If you had unlimited money, it would obviously be so easy. You could just do whatever you want the whole time. There was a lot of, I relied on people to give me a place to stay. Lots of people fed me. A
lot of support around, that's a good thing though.
And I would never have been able to do the trip just actually on my own, although I was travelling on my own. It was with support of hundreds of people, just in little micro transactions of kindness every day. So
were you actually rejected to come to places?
There were so many times where you can't come in, or they'd find a problem with your paperwork, or they would some places would just make up rules. They didn't want money, but they would just make up rules, and it's like, this doesn't benefit you. It's a massive problem for me. When I crossed into Mexico, I had this letter which was notarized by a lawyer from Ducati saying they own the bike, but they give me permission to ride it outside of the countries. And I got there, and they were like, you need a letter from, I was like, yeah, this is the letter. They were like, okay, yeah, that's good. And then they changed their mind. They were like, no, it needs to say that you work for Ducati. I was like, I don't work for Ducati. They just lend me the bike. They're like, it needs to say you work for them, otherwise you can't come in. So I went back into the waiting room, and it was like 7 o'clock in Mexico, so 2 a.m. in the UK or something like that. And I just got my laptop out with Photoshop and just photoshopped a line on the bottom saying Henry Carew is working for our press department. And I literally took the laptop back with it in Photoshop and just showed them. They were like, yep, fantastic. It's just like,
that is incredible.
What is the point? So pointless.
So kind of jumping back to the bike itself, how did you find the Scrambler in all those different terrains and different weathers and everything? How did you like the bike?
Yeah, I really liked it. I hadn't originally planned to ride that bike. I planned to ride a Kawasaki W800, which was just my daily bike back home, but I crashed it a couple of months after starting to plan to do the trip. So I had to find another bike, and it took like 10 months to get a company to say, we'll just lend you a bike for the trip, not even give you a bike. So yeah, I kind of went through a few companies and through a few options, and then the Scrambler, the Desert Sled specifically came to mind, and I just decided that that was the bike I wanted. You do form a real bond with it. All of those times that there's the miracle tank of gas that never runs out when you're just praying that you make it to the next petrol station. I had a few issues with it mechanically, but it was never in the middle of nowhere, which I was so thankful for, because like, what are you going to do? Nothing. You're going to have to wait, flag down a truck and get it in a truck or something. I wanted to ride a bike that wasn't necessarily made for a around the world trip and wasn't the conventional bike to do it on. Something that I'd want to ride back home, and yeah, I just loved it. I loved everything about that bike, and yeah, it was great.
But in a way, when you mentioned that, you know, all you do is ride a bike every day, but it feels like, even if I go for, I don't know, like a weekly trip, it's really fun for the first few days, but then it almost becomes a chore, because you know you have to get on the bike to get to the next destination. But I guess that's also, you know, it's also more pressure, because you know you have to go back home, and you know you have work on Monday and that sort of thing. So was there any point on your journey where you felt like, I really don't want to get onto it, you know, but I just kind of have to?
Yeah, definitely. But you don't have a choice. It's like, you literally don't have a choice.
So you don't even bother about it, you just go.
Yeah, I think you realise pretty quickly that, I don't know, you're in the middle of nowhere. You can't fly out. You can't get a train. You can't get a bus. You can't get a boat. Literally, the only way to not be exactly where you are right now is to get on the bike and keep on riding. So you don't have a choice.
But do you still enjoy riding as much as you did, even if you go, you know, for, I don't know, I think you said you're going to Ireland close soon enough. So would you think that you still enjoy sort of the time on the road, even though it's not a massive sort of thing anymore, as in, you know, it's not such a long term, or it's not, you know, another challenge that you have to sort of prove to yourself? Yeah,
I think my enjoyment of riding changes all the time. When I first got into bikes, I loved the classic custom stuff, and it was more like a visual and style thing, and then I got more and more into actually riding and traveling on a bike, which led to the around the world trip. And there was so much enjoyment in riding challenge, logistical challenge, and traveling and seeing new things. Then I came home, I've spent all my money, so I can't go anywhere or do anything. I didn't have a bike for a long time after the Desert Sled got stolen. But I was more interested in performance and actually improving my riding ability on the road. So I bought the Street Tripper, which was like a faster bike. And for a while that was really fun to ride faster and more technical on road. And then you reach a point there where you're like, okay, I enjoy that, I still enjoy that, but I want a new challenge, and then I have to off-road bike now, and really improving my off-road skills, and that's allowing me to explore and travel again, which I think I've realised is what I really enjoy. Like, going 100 mile an hour is fun, but if you're just coming back to the same place where you started, I would rather see something new or challenge myself with technical terrain, or seeing new things, or having shared experiences with people. I think that's what's really valuable to me, and motorcycles are a great vehicle to be able to do that with.
Right, so thank you so much for the chat, Henry. I think we're going to go and do a little trip now and jump on our bikes and have some fun. Cool. All right, cool. Thank you. Ta-da!